Welcome back, friends. In this week's Parshah, Shoftim, there are many different themes involved, from how much a priest should receive from the people, to how to conduct warfare, all the way to how to create cities of refuge, where a person who committed a heinous crime like killing someone could go and seclude themselves in these safe havens to make sure they stay alive before the trial happens, because there is the concept of vengeance killing. All of these, in the end, focus on justice and fairness, or in today's world, we would view it as crime and punishment, hoping that the punishment that one receives is akin to the crime that someone has committed. Sadly, in some cases, this is definitely not true. In drug cases, judges are required mandatory minimum sentences depending on the kind of drug in question. For example, cocaine or heroin, which are very highly dangerous Schedule I drugs, those would have mandatory sentences of between 3 to upwards of 10 years in prison, depending on how much and of what kind of drug, which, if you ask me, is quite a bit of punishment for possessing a small amount of an illegal substance. These mandatory minimums don't give judges the opportunity to exercise their judgment. Let me give you an example. Imagine, if you will, a family that is unfortunately low income. The parents work multiple jobs to keep the family afloat, but it's never quite enough. They sometimes have to choose between paying the bills or having food in the house. Now imagine if, as one of their kids, you hear about this business, this lucrative business of drug dealing. It doesn't require a lot of training, is pretty easy to do, especially if you have the right connections, and makes you loads of money. You'll be able to both take care of your parents, you'll be able to save some for later in case you have financial trouble. It seems like a pretty good option based on the kind of situation that you're in, because you're unable to easily get schooling. Because you don't have a lot of food in the house, if you are in school, you'll be doing more poorly than others because you're not properly fed. It seems to be a pretty good idea. If a judge sees the kind of situation that a person is in, the judge could adjust the punishment accordingly. And according to news sites like the Washington Post, America is very much in favor of doing away with mandatory minimum sentencing. On top of that, there are harsher punishments usually given unintentionally by these judges to African Americans versus their white counterparts. And since our criminal justice system is already inherently quite racist in nature, this only adds more trouble to the system. So, what can we do about this? We can help end this war on drugs. The war on drugs is the primary reason why the incarceration rate in the United States is so staggeringly high compared to the rest of the world. It unfairly targets minorities, African Americans, Hispanics, Latinos. When evidence has suggested that Caucasians, that whites use drugs in the same kind of degree that everyone else does, and yet they're the ones that aren't caught or prosecuted. We can help partially by dealing away with this war on drugs by getting rid of mandatory minimum sentencing. Families Against Mandatory Minimum Sentencing, FAMM, is a wonderful organization that has been campaigning endlessly to realize this dream. And we, I feel, have an obligation to help FAMM achieve this goal, because we, as Jews, understand to a degree what it is like to be imprisoned for crimes that we may or may not have committed. We understand what it is like to be shackled by bonds, either metaphysical or physical, unable to break free. Come with me, friends, and let us together help bring about more justice in our world so that we can have a society that, like our Torah, can say, Tzedek, Tzedek tirdof, justice, justice will you pursue.